now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Let's discover hardcover month, brothers and sisters. Listen up so you can know what's up in the hood.
There's been a lot of new legislation coming through and new legal challenges being made that we haven't ever seen.
They're not seeking independence. They're seeking the freedom that comes with said independence.
And she said that she wouldn't be who she was without having COVID and being able to quarantine.
So
You're entering dystopia?
yeah, honestly, yeah.
It's like I'm interviewing you. Hello, viewers. Welcome to the Hardcover Podcast. Today, we will be having a candid conversation on the topic of current issues. Basically, we're going to be talking about what it's like to be a young person and what the media keeps referring to as unprecedented times.
Yes, so we will be focusing on topics of discussions that revolve around that subject. Make sure that you are paying attention at all times. And if you have feedback or any concerns, make sure that you comment them down in the description below and that you give us a subscribe, a like, and a follow wherever you can.
What does it mean for you, unprecedented times? Like, what are we categorizing this as?
Well, I will be 100% honest. Unprecedented, I don't know the exact definition, but I can assume that it means like a bunch of like unexpected disasters, basically. So with that knowledge, I would say that can stem from a lot of things, social, independent, and political. So whatever, mess comes with that.
Yeah, I think definitely in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of big changes. In the last year, even with our new presidential administration, there's just been a lot of new legislation coming through and new legal challenges being made that we haven't ever seen, or at least haven't seen in a long time. I think, especially for people our age, we've sort of Gen Z is like the first generation to grow up like entirely in the digital era. Like their formative years take place all in that,
Right.
post-internet world. One thing I wanted to touch on was with the globalization of culture and everybody sort of liking the same things and doing the same things and listening to the same music, dressing the same way. How do you think young people are making efforts, or maybe not making efforts, I don't know what your perspective is, to keep a level of independence? How hard is it to grasp independence at a time where, first of all, the economic situation is just not cohesive with being independent at this age, and second of all, everybody's sort of mixing cultures and doing the same things, and there's a lack of separation to create individualism. Where do you think young people are falling into this part of life right now?
In my experience, I don't know too many people my age that are looking for independence to really, well, I kind of want to take that back now that I'm saying it out loud, but I'm going to just go ahead and say it. They're not chasing independence for the trend or because the next person is more so doing so. I feel like our generation now wants independence because we're at that age where we can do a lot more. And I feel like the people that are like more hungry for that independence are the people that really didn't get to experience the things they're able to experience now that with that independence they're seeking. So that's people who maybe like didn't get to stay out as late, in school, or they had to come straight home after school and such. So those people, I feel like are the ones who are mainly going after it, but it's more so just for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm trying to say. They're not seeking independence. They're seeking the freedom that comes with said independence.
Mm-hmm.
And they are, I would say some are held back by, like you were saying, the economy. It's a lot to have to pay for your own apartment. And then you got to think on top of that, groceries, electricity, you know, you got to, it's a lot of foundation you have to build when you step into that independence. And although a lot of us in our generation may want it, I don't think a lot of us are built for it.
Mm-hmm.
And
us specifically, like Gen Z specifically, do you think it's like just a life cycle thing, the whole search for independence that you were describing, where, you know, you get to a certain age and you can do a lot more stuff, so you want to do it just because you can?
It is and it isn't. I feel like it's more heavily prominent in men or males because it's a this, what's the word I'm looking for? Not persona, but like this image that a guy is supposed to be able to take a girl out if he feels. He needs to be able to like have his own situation, you know, have a foundation for himself. I feel like that's what, from my experience, that's what a lot of men that I hang around with are chasing that independence for. That purpose to say, yeah, I got this, that, and that, and it's all on my own. And with that comes with a level of respect from outsiders, you know, because you have that foundation and you're able to keep that foundation stable. So with that knowledge, you're on your stuff and such.
Well, how would you say that? It's like I'm interviewing you. Well, I was thinking from the angle of specifically our age group, our generation, Gen Z. How is that sort of coming into this stage of your life? How is this like entering this life stage? How is it different for us than it was for maybe our parents when they were doing this stuff our age? And that's sort of where it connects with this idea of unprecedented times. What we're going through now is not what they were going through when they were our age. There's a couple of things in the past couple of years that have happened, of course. COVID happened. We've lived through 2 elections where Donald Trump was elected. A third where he wasn't, but he still ran. There's TikTok becoming a thing. There's these sort of culturally defining moments, and I think it's special for Gen Z because we've lived through so many of them in our formative years. So many of them have been jam-packed into the same time. The war in Gaza, the climate change efforts, Greta Thunberg becoming a international icon, and when I was younger it was Malala Yousafzai, and there's so many of these culturally defining moments that have happened in our lifetime, and I think a lot of other generations can't quite relate on a full scope of just how many of these moments are going to be in history books, those moments that we've experienced in what we would consider our formative years from like elementary school to early adulthood. And I think that has changed Gen Z in ways that we haven't fully acknowledged as a society. It's easy to write us off being the first generation to fully grow up in a tech-filled world in a post-internet society. So it's easy to write us off because these are luxuries. These new technologies that are coming out, they are luxuries. They do make life easier, like AI and better transportation and all of these things that we get to enjoy because we grew up in this post-tech world. But it comes with all of these life-changing moments that we've experienced and then had to relive and go through online as well. So I think people haven't really quite began to understand the scope of effects that has had on Gen Z's people. I mean, the way that we attack things, the way that we go about looking for independence. For a lot of Gen Z, it's less like, okay, I turned 18, it's time to move out and do this and do that and like be an adult. Of course, because first of all, it's not financially feasible right now for us. But then also, a lot of Gen Z, in the way that I see them going about gaining that independence is more like I'm going to do a non-traditional job. I'm going to do something that I love. It's like almost mental freedom and emotional independence as opposed to a physical thing. There's a lot more stake. And you see that difference to mental and physical and emotional a lot in something that you brought up earlier is like mental health days being implemented in a lot of school districts now. Gen Z puts so much value on that mental and emotional freedom and lack of burden in that sense that when we're dealing with these life-altering moments, you see people like having mental health summits or like the effects of this and that or like going on TikTok and making jokes about it or things like that. There's an emotional shift in young people that I think wasn't there for generations before us. So I think that's something cool to think about for Gen Z. We're seeing a shift towards conservatism, hyper-individualism, which has always been an American value, but I think it's getting a lot bigger in the last couple of years. I mean, you're seeing country music is popular, trad wives are a thing, a lot of more right-wing young people are out there now. So I think that might be what people mean by unprecedented, but I can't be sure. I feel like it's not that unprecedented.
I would just categorize all of that, what you just said, as culture being more prevalent in more people's lives now. Like it's, like we were talking about before the podcast, like everything is, well, some things can become a trend. So maybe it's just the cowboys and like the more Western or Southern aesthetic that's taking more prevalence in our time right now. And it just so happened to be happening during everything else that's going on as well.
I think the internet, I feel like the internet plays a part in that. Do you think?
Of course.
Globalization of culture. Everybody's like, I feel like everybody gets on TikTok and we're all doing the same thing. And we all like the same things and talking about the same things.
That's the best way to share your experience and make sure that more than just the people in your circle can heed it. So social media definitely does have a big impact, but I think it's doing what it's intended to do. Oh, I have something we could talk about. The leaders of our generation. And I don't mean in a sense of like presidents or like government officials, but like the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's and all that. We don't really have those people that want to, or maybe we do and I just don't know about them, but I don't know anybody that's like really prevalent that's choosing to like step up and lead a, should I say regime? No, I ain't gonna say regime.
Regime
but like,
is not the right word for that.
Revolution?
Revolution.
There you go.
Movement.
There we go. Create or like lead a movement to like break out of this pattern.
Well, yeah, there's like been a couple people over the years, but it's like there's to specific things like a Greta Thunberg with environment, and there was oh my gosh, I cannot remember her name, but it was the girl who was a victim in the Parkland, Florida shooting, and she led a movement like against guns, basically, in the U.S., the school shooting in Florida in 2017, and her friends. I mean, she was in the shooting, so she led that movement. And of course, there's all the young people who were out there for the big Black Lives Matter movement when George Floyd was killed. And now with Palestine. The thing with our generation also is there's even an oversaturation. I don't want to say oversaturation, so you can never have too many change makers, but there's a lot of people online who are, joining these movements through hashtags, through Instagram stories. They go to marches and protests and things like this, and then they post online. And it's sort of a double-edged sword because you can get a lot of young people into these movements, and you can get a lot of them willing to take some sort of action. So you can get a lot of people into these movements, right? But you can also, with media being so accessible, you can get a lot of people into the other side. And I think we saw that with recent election and podcasts.
Mm.
And podcasts are really getting a lot of young voters out there, particularly for the right.
That is true.
Yeah,
true.
and you also have like, it's kind of hard to have that, person at the forefront, to have a Martin Luther King, a Malcolm X, a Rosa Parks.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to sort of have that in the day and age that we're in, almost because it's too accessible. Everybody's out there leading some movement about something or other. Even some of the things that really nobody's worried about that right now. But people are leading all sorts of movements. Even ones that we really don't need to hear about. Like, I promise you, Taylor Swift will be fine if somebody's dissing her on Discord. Like, we do not need to have a hashtag for that, guys. In a time where, the internet is forever and it's so accessible, you can find dirt on anybody at any time. It's hard to have those figureheads of a movement because nobody wants to support somebody that's, like, not aligned with their morals. And nobody, like, no movement wants to pin their whole movement on the face of somebody who's not palatable to audiences. These days, they catch you could be fighting for human rights and they catch you, like, cheating on your girlfriend and you're done. You're done.
Would you say they'll have a different approach if they put all their, like, dirty laundry out on the floor when they first started?
Nah.
It'll still be the same reaction?
Gen Z and, like, the internet right now, there's like a cultural code. Like cancel culture. I hate you bringing it up. Cancel culture. There's a cultural code that people live by on the internet, which is crazy because the internet is like a lawless place. It's like, those are like the Badlands guides. But there's a code that everybody, like, lives by, and there's, like, certain things that you do, and it's like, that's cancelable, and then boom, it's like over from there on. You're done. Unless you're, like, richer than everybody else.
What would you say is, like, a method of bringing yourself back during COVID and such, and, like, during times of despair? What brings you back to yourself?
I have to say, one of the things that is so special about our generation is the ability to bounce back. It's resilience. You can get knocked down, you get up, you keep going. I mean, during COVID, not specifically my experiences, but one thing that always stood out to me is the way my sister described COVID for her. My sister never really was the biggest fan of school, so COVID coming in and, like, going into that lockdown and being in your home, this was, I think, like, in high school for her, like, really early high school, and it was supposed to be this transitionary period, and she sort of got to pause and take a step back from life and figure out herself in the safety of her home before she had to go out and, like, be an adult and do things and be part of this larger social network that is, like, when you get to these bigger transitionary periods of life, like going into high school, going into college, you're doing all these new things, meeting all these new people, and so much is expected of you, and she got to take this time and sort of have an intervention in that flow and figure out who she was, like, on her own, with people she was comfortable with, in a setting she was comfortable with. And she said that she wouldn't be who she was without having COVID and being able to quarantine and figure out her own mind. It kind of gives you time to be alone with your thoughts, and I think that's important for a generation like ours that was plugged in for our entire lives. I mean, not only were you considering the opinions and thoughts of the people immediately around you in your community, there was this entire online community and an entire world that you had access to, easy access to, from the time you were a child. So when I was growing up, it wasn't just about, like, what are the trends in Chicago, what are the trends in my neighborhood, what are kids wearing. I was, like, worrying about what kids are wearing in Japan and stuff like that, like, and trying to keep up with that. So COVID sort of gave you a time to take a step back and figure out, like, who am I actually without the internet for there, or, like, public there. So I think that was pretty cool to witness of course, amidst all of this horror and tragedy and terrible time in all of our lives, there was a bit of hope there too. There was a little shining beacon of light, sort of, kind of. What about you? How was your experience through COVID?
My experience through COVID was, I think I was in my junior year when it hit.
Wow, you're old.
It was the week before my birthday too. So I spent that first week praying that they wouldn't cancel school because, well, I just wanted to show up for school on my birthday for some reason.
No, understandable.
But it happened, and like your sister, it gave me an opportunity to actually focus on my creativity. So I spent like literally from 2020 to 2023 developing my YouTube channel and putting my script writing and that I was doing in class to like good use and bringing that to life with my animation productions. So that's mainly what I was doing throughout COVID. Like I was animating and being a creative. So and with that, it gave me like I don't want to say it helped me a lot because it really didn't. It gave me like a perspective of what I wanted to do after high school, but it didn't like really like, it wasn't drilled into my head that like to have a set plan as such, because I was just enjoying my freedom. Like we didn't have school. To be honest, in the beginning, I didn't think we would ever go back to school. So
you're entering dystopia?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Like that's what
And I felt like that for a little bit.
I literally felt like that. So I'm just like, well, I'm gonna enjoy this while I can, and I definitely did. I was able to produce a show that I've had like really wanting to do like since I was a child. So like being able to do that was a win. But I do wish I could have focused on more like real life stuff during that time, because like I said, I was a junior. My next year would have been a senior. So like I should have been focusing on like colleges a lot more, or my pursuit of life straight afterwards instead of like the creative field. So that's a direction
you
I
were
wish.
A junior?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. That's the direction I wish I could have took, but you know, things happen for a reason. And yeah. Don't think about it too hard, Franny.
Well, are you sure you were a junior?
Yeah, or was I?
You were a sophomore.
Wait, sophomore.
You were a sophomore.
I graduated 22, so I was a sophomore going into probably my junior year, and then we came back. No,
you had to have been a sophomore.
wait, we did spend a whole year, so a whole school year.
Whole school year.
So you're right. That was my sophomore year, and then I spent the whole junior year hybrid.
Old. My sister was junior. That's how I know.
Yeah.
I was like, you're not that old.
Yeah. Okay, then no, I'm not that old. Then thankfully, I'm still youthful, very much.
You swiped away your gray hair.
Yeah.
Definitely old. The oldness or what? Okay, well, anything to add? Camerawoman Jane?
No, I think you guys did great.
Guys, round of applause to our camera person back there.